Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from the root well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another Let's Do the Spirit. And I'm entitled this one, The Elect Will Be Tired of This Place. Especially here in America, which is Babylon the Great, which is the mother of all harlots. This is where all the wickedness that goes out throughout the planet Earth started. Because all these nations, before America fully came into rulership, all these other nations had a sense of morality, for the most part. They were still wicked, but they still had those old traditional ways of having a family, the women being in order. People weren't just being moles. People weren't just out there deleting each other. People weren't really lovers of themselves. And here in America, it's all about being selfish. All about me. People being on social media, taking selfies, being on Instagram. People just trying to pretty much be, the main character, which we know here in America, a majority of the people here are going to get put to death, especially 2/3 of Jake, ultimately for helping push this wickedness, especially these celebrities, from these rappers, these professional sports players, these boxers, these UFC fighters, these actors, especially these actors. A lot of Jake got all that wealth and fame, by doing abominations, bending down to the devil, which is Esau, Edom, the silver-clad white man, to the small hats, or sacrificing their family members, sacrificing them onto Baal, and pretty much here in America, for the most part, you gotta sell out one way or another. You gotta either sacrifice your time to the point that you won't have time for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. That's why a lot of brothers, that had good paying jobs or careers, ultimately, if it took up a lot of time for them to serve in the ministry, they had to give that up. Because ultimately we know that as long as we have sufficient for our daily bread, give me neither poverty nor riches, just food for communion for me. That's the mindset that the elect will be given in. But to each brother, that portion is different. Some brothers might be able to handle a large amount of money, but some brothers can't. Ultimately, that's why Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai gave each brother to the portion that's according to his spirit. And every brother's going to be different. But ultimately, we know that this isn't the end all be all, like majority of Jake is out here thinking. Majority of Jake out here thinking mindset is that America is going to continue on forever, to chase the bag mentality, get rich or die trying mentality. That's a lot of Jake's mindset, especially the Jake out here in America. America has gave our people that philosophies of the American dream. If you go to college for however many amount of years, you're going to be successful. You find a job, but ultimately we know that this new wine, these philosophies that America created, through Esau, Edom, the silver-clad white man, they're dying, and all the people are starting to realize that America was this whole time was bullshit, and it's collapsing. But somehow these Americans still want to stay here because it lets them do wickedness, especially our people. Our people don't want to leave America, because if they was to be held accountable, then they would have to put all their wickedness away. They would have to put Jesus Christ away. They would have to put off eating pork. They would have to put off smoking weed, smoking blunts, doing drugs, committing adultery. And Jake don't want to do that. They like doing those things. They like dwelling in wickedness. That's ultimately why Yahweh Shem Shai is going to destroy them, because they want this wickedness to continue. But us, they have been given this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Us of the hopeful elect, we hate this shit. We don't like seeing all the wickedness that goes down around us, especially at the work site. Some of us might have to deal with certain family members, people in the world, and ultimately their conversations and the way they carry themselves vexes us, because we see everything that goes down around us and it's out of order. We know that it's out of order ultimately by the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that was given unto us by Yahweh Shem Shai. This is Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 4. And the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And ultimately Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. And where is majority, or where's the bulk of the 12 tribes of Israel? They comprise of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and Israelite foreigners that may look like the other heathen nations, but ultimately their lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is here in America, which is Babylon the Great, spoken about in the scriptures, Mystery Babylon. And ultimately, 2/3 of Jake, they're not going to be crying out for the abominations that are being done in the midst thereof. Instead, they're okay with it. They're okay with the Mo agenda. Their mindset is, as long as it don't come near me, then I'm okay with it. But no, ultimately the scriptures, they tell us if we see a Mo, we're supposed to put him to death, but we can't. Ultimately because we're not sovereign. That's why we want this place to be destroyed, and we want the kingdom of heaven. But Jake don't want that. Jake wants this kingdom of Esau, Edom, to continue on forever, so they can continue on and do wickedness. And that mark, that's going into the mark of exemption. That's the mark that the elect are going to have, with the names of Yahweh Shem Shai written in their foreheads. The rest of these 2/3, they're going to take the other mark. They're going to take the MOTB, because they want this place to continue. And ultimately for them to continue on in this society, to buy and sell, partaking in society, and to rent an apartment, buy a home, buy groceries, they're going to take that mark. And ultimately that's why they're going to get put to death. Verse 5, and to the others he said in my hearing, Go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. So when Yahweh Shem Shai releases those winds of destruction, whoever's not part of the elect, whoever wasn't sealed with the names of Yahweh Shem Shai written in their foreheads, they're going to get put to death. And Yahweh Shem Shai is not going to discriminate who he puts to death. Like it says right here in the next verse, verse 6, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. So it said women twice, maids and women. So majority of the nation of Israel, they're comprised of the 2/3 is mainly women, because women are the most proud in this society. The Western woman is completely lost in the sauce. They're completely oblivious, delusional, out of their mind. They think that they're better than men because Esau, Edom gave them a high paying career job, because they get food stamps and benefits and welfare. Ultimately, that was a snare and trap to separate the Israelite man from the Israelite women, and they worked. But ultimately, what this devil is doing now, he's putting off Eve. He's doing away with her, because ultimately the agenda has been fulfilled. Eve, throughout the last 50 years, she completely has destroyed the Israelite man. Setting them up, sending them to jail, bearing false witness. But ultimately, Yahweh Shem Shai is not going to let Eve go unpunished. He's reserving her for the day of judgment. Ezekiel 9 and 6, continuing on, it says, But come not near any man whom is a mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. And that's right, the elect are going to be covered by the blood of Yahweh Shai. They're going to be covered with that mark of exemption. That mark of exemption was going to lead to the angels of death to pass over them, just like in the time of ancient Egypt, when they had that blood on the doorpost. In this modern day Egypt, which is America, is going to be that the blood of Yahweh Shai. which is going to be spiritual, but only the elect are going to be having that blood. The rest of these 2/3 out here that are okay with all the wickedness that goes on around them, they're not going to have that mark of exemption. They're going to get put to death because ultimately they're okay with all the wickedness that goes down in America. They're okay with black culture. They're okay with YNs deleting each other. They're okay with Eve running rampant and just getting abortions every other week. That's ultimately why Jake's gonna get put to death for not rebuking our people, for condoning, all the abominations and wickedness that our people love to do. Eve getting out at the red light and hopping out and start twerking, shaking her funky ass everywhere. You got Northern Kingdom and the cartels, just being wicked. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 14. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. So everything here that goes on around America, even if you're well off and you have a good job, you have the happy wife, happy life, you have the kids, the white picket fence, you got the Ferrari. Ultimately, you still die. You're not immortal. You still got to be subject to die, be subject to infirmities, be subject to catching hell, and most importantly, be subject to your oppressor, which is Esau, Edom, the silver-clean white man. That's vexation in itself. Knowing that you're not sovereign, knowing that you can't keep the law, statutes, commandments perfectly because we're in these wicked ass bodies. Verse 15, that which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanted cannot be numbered. So ultimately, even our own people, we rebuke them, we tell them to get right, but they don't want to get right. They want to continue on and being wicked. That's why ultimately Yahweh Shemi Shai is going to have to put 2/3 of Israel to death because they're not going to get it on this side. They're going to have to be brought back through the loins of the elect. That's how they're going to get it right. And even us, we hope to be part of that elect so we can be beamed up, Lord willing, and be changed into those new bodies where we're going to have the law, statutes, and commandments written in our inward parts. Because ultimately, that's another reason we hate being here. We hate being in these chains of darkness. We hate being subject to infirmities and catching hell and demons fucking with our heads, Satan fucking with our head. I'm going to jump down to verse 17. And I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is also vexation of spirit. And everything around here in America, from the way these people behave, the social media, everybody want to be an influencer, everybody's doing TikToks. Everything that goes down around here in America is vexation and folly. It's all bread and circus, distraction. What these people are worried about, it really doesn't pertain to salvation. And even these other Israelite camps, all they're doing is just feeding gimmicks onto their people, doing Hebrew Israelite rap battles, Hebrew Israelite cookouts, Hebrew Israelite Passovers at the club, at the strip club. Jake is just completely bugged out, knowing that they're Israelites and knowing what's the right thing to do, but they don't do it. Verse 18, for in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. And ultimately us that have been given the true knowledge, wisdom, and understanding by Yahweh Shemi Shai, we know that this is all bullshit. We know how the world's supposed to be ran, but ultimately it's being ran in wickedness. And 2/3 of our people, they're okay with everything that goes on around them. They're not tired of this shit. They want this shit to continue. They want to continue riding on in their Hellcats downtown, the Revenant engine, continue to be YNs and deleting each other, continue to be adulterers, continue to keep eating pork, shrimp, crab, lobster, continue to go into these Christian churches and worship white Jesus. Jake wants to continue to do this because it feels good to the flesh. This is 2 Ezra chapter 7 and verse 42. He answered me and said, this present life is not the end where much glory doth abide. Therefore have they prayed for the weak. This present life, which is, this current life that we're living here in Babylon, the great America. This shit ain't it, but Jake think this is the end all be all. They're in the house of mirth because this is all they know. Going to the clubs every damn day out the week. Popping bottles at the VIP section. That's as good as it gets for Jake. Jake selling out the Esau Edom so they could get a couple millions. But ultimately, this is what they don't understand. This devil could just take that all away. They're working for a corruptible crown. Verse 43, but the day of doom shall be the end of this time, in the beginning of immortality for to come, wherein corruption is past. And that's what we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to the day of doom, the day of Yahushua's return, so he can put a stop to all this wickedness that goes on around us, put a stop to the wicked of our people, put a stop to this devil. Ultimately, because we know for the kingdom of heaven to come, the great destruction has to take place. We look forward to the destruction of America, because after America gets destroyed and the elect get beamed up, then that's when the kingdom of heaven will begin. When the elect get changed to those new bodies, have the law, statutes, commandments written in their inward parts. That's what we're looking forward to, because we're tired of being in these chains of darkness, being subject to infirmities, getting sick. Your joints are fucked up, your back is fucked up, you can't walk right. This is Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you even with a sword destruction. And that's what we're doing, us of the hopeful elect. We're departing, detaching ourselves spiritually from this wicked ass place that we call America, because we know if you get too attached to this place, it will destroy you. Like 2/3 of our people, they're fully invested in this place, but now they're coming to find out that ultimately Esau Edom, he was never for our people. But Jake mindset was, oh, maybe he's changed. Maybe he's not the same motherfucking devil that he's been his whole existence. That was the hope that our people had. But now the northern kingdom is starting to find out that this devil is not for the nation of Israel. That's why a lot of our people are going to get caught in that snare and trap for trusting in this devil, for going down to Egypt for help. It's 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 4. For if the Most High spared not the angels that sin, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness, to be reserved into judgment. And that's ultimately not going into the fallen angels that came down and made it, with women down on the earth and had giants. No, that's going into the Allahayim, the elect, which we hope to be part of that, because ultimately that's why we want to get out of here, because we're in these chains of darkness. We're subject to the flesh, subject to sin, subject to dying. Verse 6, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemn them with an overthrow, making them an example unto those that should live ungodly. And how did Sodom and Gomorrah get taken out? It got taken out by that hailstorm, by that fire, that hellfire. And just like Sodom and Gomorrah got burned up to do away with all the wickedness that was being done in the midst thereof, it's going to be the same end of America. Is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire, which we know we're almost at that time. With all the tensions going down in the Middle East, with Iran and Israel, it's only going to ramp up more and more and more. But we know that it's not going to go fully nuclear until the MOTB gets made mandatory. Verse 7, and deliver just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. And then we're in the spirit of Lot. We're vexed with all the filthy conversations. How these people move on a daily basis. They move in that YOLO spirit. You only live once. I'm going to live my best life and be wicked. Especially these women out here, being whores, being harlots. We're tired and vexed of this wicked ass place that we call America. Verse 8, for the righteous man dwelling among them is seeing and hearing, vex his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. So we're fed up. We're tired of this wicked ass place. Constantly seeing the proud ass counters on these people. All haughty and all pride is all hell for no damn reason. America's collapsing. inflation is at an all-time high yet, but these people are still fucking proud. Verse 9, the Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust until the day of judgment to be punished. So ultimately, these people are proud as all hell, but what they don't know is that they're being reserved. You know, you got Big Shirley out here, obese as all hell, weighing 600 pounds. You got Keisha being a whore, having abortions. You got the Northern Kingdom being wicked as all hell, being deported. But yeah, what they don't know, their mindset, they think because they've been wicked their whole life, they've been eating pork, and I'm still alive, that they're going to get away with it. But no, ultimately, Yahweh Shemel Shai is reserving them for not calling out the wickedness that's going down around them. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 1. And he answered me, saying, the Most High had made this world for many, but the world to come for few. And the majority of the people in this world, especially here in America, they're going to get put to death because they're okay with this place. They're okay with drinking polluted ass water, breathing chemtrails, eating GMOs, okay with McDonald's and Popeyes and fast food. They're okay with YNs and rap music, rapping about adultery. You know, ultimately that's why this world is for many, but the kingdom of heaven is for few. Yes, for the whole nation of Israel, but ultimately that governing body is gonna be the one that you know sets it up. You know, starting with the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3. This is Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 14. For here we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come. So this city, America, Babylon the Great, and wherever the elect are scattered, we know that we're pilgrims upon earth. We're only here for a temporary time. But that's part of our punishment. We have to endure all the vexation that we go through, but ultimately we know that it's not forever. We know that eventually it's going to come to an end, but our salvation draws nigh by all the different prophecies that are playing out, all the stuff that's going on around the world. You know, is letting us know, Yahweh Shemel Shai is letting us know that our salvation draws nigh, and that's what we're looking forward to, so we can be delivered out of this hellish ass condition and out of you know, having to walk around with these wicked ass people. You know, but that's pretty much the point. Pray that this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this from them well. Peace, salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say shalom.